Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. I thought today we would take a look at two of my works in progress. I almost always have two going at a time. I'm really excited about both of these. Let me show you the first one. It's this quilt that I'm almost done with, and I do not consider a quilt to be finished until the binding is on and it's done and it's a quilt and it can go on a bed. I know some people consider a quilt to be done when the quilt top is done, and that also doesn't make any sense to me. The quilt's not done unless that's how you want it to be finished. I mean, if you want it to be finished as like a sheet, fine, but that's not what's going on. So this is my Star Wars quilt. I think it's pretty cool. I think that these fabrics are awesome. When it's actually done, I'll give you a better look at it, but you can get the idea for now. And then I did this border. That's all. As you can see, I still need to hand sew the binding onto the back like that. But you get the idea. And then this fabric along the border is this kind of, if you've seen Star Wars, you know that this is kind of like them flying through space. This is how it looks. So these fabrics were all just so colorful. I did use some solid-ish prints to kind of make this diamond here, but there's only actually two real solids. So like this is not really a solid, neither is this, neither is this. None of those are actual solids. They just kind of read as solids. Let's see if I can find one of the actual solids. Here we go. This mustardy color here is a solid. And then I have this like army green color. But let me show you one thing from up above. So like I mentioned, these solid pieces kind of make this diamond, which then creates diamonds next to the diamonds of these four fabrics together. And there were so many different fabrics that I really was able to mix things up quite a bit, which is cool. But you would think that this is the block that I would have created and this is a block I would have created, but that's actually not the case. The block is this right here. So it's a square, two triangles, and then a bigger triangle put together into a square. And then you can see this one is the exact same thing. It's just the big triangle is flipped, and same up here. The big triangle is then put above and over here. The big triangle is up in the right hand corner there. And so it creates this large block, and then you just attach this, really large block made up of the four smaller blocks to the one next to it. So it's really easy to construct. I almost always get my fabrics at my local quilt shop, but I happened to be at Joann's and was walking by this stand and I saw these fabrics and I thought I just absolutely had to make a quilt out of these. I think they're just so cool. So many of them are Star Wars, like this and this, but then some of the other ones are The Mandalorian, like these two. And The Mandalorian is a TV show that's kind of a takeoff of Star Wars, if you're familiar with that. And then this one is kind of comic booky. So this is going to be pretty cool, and I'll show it to you when it's complete, which will probably be in our next video. The second work in progress is a memorial quilt for my really good friend's father. So my really good friend, we've been friends since I was 4 and she was 5, maybe even longer than that. But my friend's mother, who's the wife of this man who unfortunately died of cancer recently, which is super tragic and, heartbreaking for everybody involved. But my friend's mother asked me to make a memorial quilt for my friend as a surprise out of his t-shirts. And when she first asked me to do this, I thought that's pretty basic. I've never done a t-shirt quilt before, but there's like 100 tutorials on them, and you're usually just lining the t-shirts up next to each other in blocks, maybe with a border, some sashing. But I should have known, because my friend's mom, who's John's wife, John is the gentleman who passed away, but my friend's mom, she's an artist, and so she wanted something a little bit more interesting than that, which I was all for, because there's nothing that, I dislike more than a boring quilt. Actually, I love all quilts, even boring quilts, so that would have been fine. So she had all kinds of ideas, and she had seen on the internet somewhere this image that she wanted to use, and I was able to hunt down where that image came from, and it came from this magazine. And so you can see, here's the image there, and you're probably wondering, how do you turn that into a t-shirt quilt? And I will tell you, but let me find the bigger image in this book here, in this magazine. All right, so here it is. Here's the image. This is a full quilt. It's like a wall hanging. I think it's like 55 by 60, or no, that's not what it is. It's smaller than that. I think it's like 40 by 35 or something. But anyway, but we wanted to do something different with the sun, which meant that the whole construction of the whole thing had to be constructed in a different way than the instructions here. If you're interested in this, this is Patchwork and Quilting. It is issue 102 from 2021. But I'm glad I have it because it's kind of cool, but it did me no good because I had to completely construct it in a different way. But she came over, we went through my stash, we picked out fabrics, and I think this is looking mighty awesome. And I'll tell you more about how we're going to incorporate the t-shirts. But these are not the t-shirts, this is just the fabric. But see if you can get a sense of these mountains here. And then we change the sun around to be a little bit different. I don't know if you can see the fabric of the interior of the mountain. It's really cool. And then I went outside my comfort zone and I did use some solids here. And then look at this background fabric. I feel like it looks like it's raining, which I feel like is very appropriate for a memorial quilt. So that's going to be part of it. And then she also wanted to use some she had seen these Santa Fe kind of inspired quilt blocks, and I was able to reconstruct those. So that's what these look like. So there's going to be, it's basically going to be kind of the mountains on the bottom, and then a row of t-shirts with little borders around each one, and then a row of these Santa Fe blocks, more t-shirts, and then more Santa Fe blocks. So it's going to be a pretty big quilt, but I think it'll be really great. I'm incredibly enthusiastic about it. I am nervous about the t-shirts. I'm gonna, watch some tutorials. I know you have to back them with that, lightweight adhesive so they don't stretch. I'm prepared to do that. But what I'm nervous about is the fact that, the one thing you don't want to mess up is a memorial quilt. And especially with the t-shirts, it's not like you can just go to your quilt shop and buy more t-shirt fabric. Like, you mess those t-shirts up and you're done, right? I was talking to a friend about it, and she was saying how it's kind of like when the fish dies and the parents just buy a new fish that looks exactly the same. I'd be on eBay like looking for the shirt that's the same, and my friend's mom would be like, "Where was that stain that used to be on that shirt?" So we were joking about that. But anyway, the other thing that I'm doing while I'm creating all of these pieces for the memorial quilt, because I love the fabrics so much together. My friend's mom picked out all of the fabrics from my stash, so since they're from my stash, I love them. But she made really smart choices. So because I love these fabrics together so much, I am kind of, as I have little pieces like these triangles came off of, they were part of these blocks here. I'm just kind of sewing them up. And so this will eventually be kind of another quilt, and I have a bunch of pieces from the mountains that I'm also going to, that I have already started sewing together to make other interesting blocks. So I think that's going to be a whole different, really cool quilt. So I said that my friend's mom, John's wife, is an artist. And so I thought I would show you this. I thought you might find this interesting. This is one of her artworks that she did. And it is one of them is me. Can you tell which one is me? It's this one. So this is me, and this is my friend, her daughter. So this is the person who's gonna be receiving the memorial quilt. And I did receive permission from my friend's mom to make a video about this, because I would never, this is like a very personal subject, so I did receive permission. But this lives in my living room, and I love this piece. I think it's fantastic. I love it because she made it, and then I also love it because I think it's a stunning piece of art. So that's that. And just in terms of the construction, I wanted to show that in the official pattern in that magazine, these are just done as full strips without any seams. So that's a full strip. And then same here, full strip, full strip. But the way that I did it, these are all half square triangles. So they line up to be half square triangle, all the way down on all three mountains, right? There's the half square triangle, half square triangle. So it just goes to show that you can make the same image in a variety of ways. In addition to making all of these little pieces as I go along for another quilt, the other thing that I did, because of the fact that I didn't want to mess up this memorial quilt, I also was creating a whole nother quilt of the mountains as I went out of kind of backup fabric that I'm not really crazy about. And I would do a little piece of the backup quilt, and then once I got the measurements and found it was successful, I would do that same part in the real quilt, and then do another part in the backup quilt, and keep going back and forth. So the quilt was expanding and being created, both the backup and the real one at the same time. So the fabrics that I used in these don't go, I don't really love this, but I'm going to show it to you, and I have some ideas. So this is the backup one that I was doing, and you can see even here, like I didn't have enough. Most of the background here is this like gingham, which blends in too much with the mountains, but I didn't even have enough of that by the time I got here, so I had to use, you know, this fabric. But I'm going to tell you about this little embroidery here. So I was making this backup one. It's really weird. I don't like the colors, it doesn't go, but I think it's a really good opportunity to just play around with it. And so I'm gonna keep adding and adding and adding and adding until like, you can't even tell what's going on. Like you're gonna be able to tell it's a mountain. But for example, like I added this lace along here, right? So the lace outlines that middle mountain. You can see that's the lace. And then I have felt. I cut out these felt pieces, and I'm gonna sew the felt pieces kind of onto the mountain here. I think this one actually goes on the other side. So that it stands out. So that it stands out against the background a little bit more, and it will add kind of a nice little texture. And then I'm experimenting with making some embroidery wind swooping lines. I did not use an embroidery hoop, and the fabric is all like a little puckered there, as you can see. So I think I need to use an embroidery hoop. I might even pluck that out and do it again, but I'm gonna use these pretty embroidery flosses here, which aren't typically like wind colors, but I think it might look kind of like sunset-like. And then, instead of building up, having the mountains be at the bottom, I think I'm gonna build down and make like a scene of fields and animals underneath the mountain. So this is not really a work in progress. This is now, because the mountains are done, I can do whatever I want with this. I'm not building this at the same time as the memorial quilt anymore. This I can do whatever I want with. It's not really a work in progress, it kind of is. This is gonna be like something that I kind of pick up and put away for years on end. So that's that. I also made another one of the 8-pointed stars. In my last video, we talked about Mari Erickson, who is my inspiration for the 8-pointed stars. And I added another one. I think it's a little strange, but I kind of love it. So it's this map fabric in the background. And I think it's kind of cool. So I'm just going to continue to make these. I guess you could consider this an additional work in progress. I'm just hand piecing the stars at night, and then adding the little borders by machine. Last thing for today, you may have remembered a couple videos ago that I had bought this fabric on Etsy, and I had, why? Here, It was right side up. I had bought this fabric on Etsy and I had felt that it was kind of fuzzy and I wasn't sure, like the writing was kind of fuzzy and the images were a little blurry and I wasn't sure if that's the way it was supposed to be or what. So I had bought a yard from Missouri Star Quilt Company. Love Missouri Star. And I'm gonna put these next to each other and tell me what you think. Both of these fabrics are washed. I always wash my fabrics before I use them. This one is from Etsy and this one is from Missouri Star. And there's not a big difference, but I think there is a difference. So let's take a look here. You can see the word Hawaii here and Hawaii here, and it's just a little crisper. Let's find another one. Here's another one that basically looks, the same, but if you really look at the outline of the mountains, these are crisper. So this is the one that is Missouri Star Quilt Company. And the bird, this bird is much crisper. The writing here is pretty much unreadable, but here it's just a little bit crisper. Let's take a look at this one. Of the versus of the, there really is a difference. So I don't know, why that is, but I do believe there is a difference between those fabrics. And I'm not discouraging people to buy fabrics from Etsy. This person that I bought from, it was the first time I bought from her, but she got great reviews. But it does make me wonder, and it does make me more inclined to stick to some of the more reliable sources, either the local quilt shops, Missouri Star Quilt Company website, Fat Quarter Shop website. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.